India has produced 187 new billionaires in the past 1 year. The 2023 M3M Hurun Global Rich List, released earlier today, shows that as many as 24 Indian cities and towns produced a record 187 billionaires in 2022. Of these, 66 new billionaires came from Mumbai, while 39 were from New Delhi and 21 from Bengaluru. The maximum number of new billionaires were produced in the US. India overtook China in the list last year. And in fourth place is Germany, fifth was Switzerland. Importantly, the world had fewer billionaires last year in comparison to 2021. While the number dropped 8%, their total wealth declined 10%, reflecting the economic pain the world is currently undergoing. Over 1,078 to be precise, saw their wealth increase, while 2,479 saw their wealth decrease or stay the same. 445 dropped off the billionaires list. In India, Mukesh Ambani took on the mantle of the richest Indian from Gautam Adani, who witnessed a rapid erosion in his wealth. The Adani Group chairman lost $28 billion in wealth last year, an average fall of 3,000 crore rupees every week. To discuss these trends and more from the M3M Hurun Global Rich List, we're joined by Anas Rahman Junaid, MD and Chief Researcher of Hurun India. Anas, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to see the list and some of the insights that it really throws up. First and foremost, share with us the positioning for India on the list. A whole lot of self-made billionaires, but maybe not top of the charts globally as it was in previous years.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I think this is the 12th edition of the M3M Hurun Global Rich List. As mentioned by you during your intro, I think it's been pretty much a very rough year in terms of wealth creation on the back of Ukraine war, inflation, and the latest one being the banking crisis and so on. And of course, the dollar has appreciated almost 12% year on year, and that's had an effect on the value of dollar billionaires as well. So it's been a rough year in that context. But I think the whole purpose of the M3M Hurun Global Rich List is to look at how we've grown over the last 12 years. So when we put out the list in 2012, India had about 49 US dollar billionaires. And now that number has grown to almost 187, if I just take off the dropouts as well. And interestingly, the wealth creation, magnitude also is going up. For instance, the number of billionaires with a net worth of more than 5 billion US plus, that has grown from about 13 10 years back to about 30 right now. That's almost three times. The number of super billionaires with a wealth of 10 billion plus has grown from about 4 in 10 years back to about 11 now. So overall, if you look at the story from a 10, 12-year perspective, the wealth creation in India has been fantastic. But of course, this year has been a pretty much rough year. Cumulatively, India lost about 40 billionaires. We added about 16 new billionaires as well. So overall, it's been a bad year globally. But then a long-term perspective, I think it is looking definitely bright.
Right. Let's talk about the billionaire that has been in the news, and that's Gautam Adani. He has, of course, seen an erosion in wealth, but he's not the only billionaire globally. Just put it into perspective for us, Anas.
Yes, just to give you a perspective, right? The top 4 tech billionaires from the US, which includes your Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Sergey Brin, Larry Page. If you just add the total wealth that they've lost, it's about 200 billion US. Now that is almost double the amount of all the wealth lost by the Indian billionaires in the M3M Hurun Global Rich List. So globally, the wealth erosion has been much higher. So India has taken a hit. But just to give you these are the sort of numbers, right? So it is definitely a bit of a loss there. But then I think countries like US, China, they've had much bigger wealth depletion compared to that of India on a cumulative basis.
And there was also an interesting statistics which showed which was more native-born billionaires versus billionaires that have migrated. Take us through that as well, because that's also a shift in the list as opposed to previous years.
That's actually a very interesting stat in the sense that when we put out the list about 10 years back, almost 22% of the list were the NRIs. That means Indians who have migrated out from India and they've been creating their respective businesses there and so on. But now that number is shrunk down to almost 13%. So that's actually quite interesting. It's not because we lost a lot of NRI billionaires. It's only because the proportion of local billionaires or super wealth creators are going up, and from the number of cities, in terms of just the billionaire population alone, not even going to the wider rich list. Now, billionaire population alone, about 10 years back, we found representation from about 5 to 7 cities. Now it's about 24 to 25 cities from which all these entrepreneurs are coming from. So the wealth creation is happening across the board, from tier 2, tier 3 cities. A lot of local companies are growing. A lot of interesting companies are being built in India. And we haven't even, we've had a good startup revolution. Now that has kind of taken a momentary pause because of inflation and lack of availability of capital and so on. Once all that picks up in possibly in the next couple of years, I really hope that all the engines, the startup, the bottom, the opportunities that tackle the rural India, which is a bottom 800 million population, traditional industries, family businesses, all that's India's going to fire from all cylinders. So it's going to be exciting, from that perspective.
Okay. I also saw that Byju's is being recognized globally as one of the leading names in education. Take us to the results there.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting fact. I didn't really quite notice it while I was compiling the list. When we were trying to put out the M3M Hurun Global Rich List and trying to put India in context, a lot of interesting facts popped up, which is basically the number one aviation entrepreneurs in the world, right? Which means number one wealth creators from aviation sector is from India, the founders of Indigo. The number one paint manufacturer, the paint-based entrepreneurs, the founder of Asian Paints in the world is from India. The world's richest pharmaceutical entrepreneur is from India, which is basically Dr. Cyrus Poonawalla. So it's simply education. The number two is Byju's. So if you look at all these factors, Indians are really creating. It really speaks volumes about one, the market, the India as a market. Secondly, the fact that we have amazing set of entrepreneurs who are building companies not just in India but also exporting to the world, which includes the likes of Dr. Poonawalla of Serum or Byju's, who's creating amazing edtech company which is exporting to the rest of the world and so on. So there are quite a few interesting kind of topics that popped up.
Fantastic. Great chatting with you, Anas, and understanding some of the insights from the Hurun Rich List, the M3M Hurun Global Rich List, which is much awaited every year, and seeing many of those Indians still very much on top. Thanks so much for speaking with us.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.